All right. I just thought I'd share some stories. Relax. I just thought I'd share some stories. I don't know if there are probably a few people here from Saudi. I grew up in Saudi, for those of you who know, and if you don't know, then I grew up there, I live there. My sisters-in-laws are Saudi, so I have a lot of ties to that country. So growing up there, I saw a lot of things. I used to teach English. So I'm going to relate some of those real-life stories and tell you the irony of it all. So I used to teach English, and some of my students, when I was teaching English, they watch the satellite TV and they're influenced by it. So they come up to me and they're like, teacher, I love 50 Cent. I said, what? Who's 50 Cent? And they're like, teacher, 50 Cent. So in Saudi, I tell them it's the cents is halal. So I said, 50 Cent is like 50 halal, Zay Zabala, he's like the garbage. And they're like, what do you mean? And the funny thing is that they would come up to me and tell me that, oh, I know 50 Cent. I said, do you guys don't even know your scholars and you don't even know your reciters? Because I used to live in the city of Jeddah, and there's a lot of beautiful reciters, and they didn't even know their names, so it was sad to me. So over there are something called checkpoints. Are you guys familiar with checkpoints here in America? Checkpoints, like checkpoints where they have drug busts or whatever. So when you drive, these police officers, they pull you over to look at your car. I used to have a Honda Civic, so it was 94 Civic. So they judge you by your car. So I had a 94 Honda Civic. It's like, pull over, They say, jannib. That means like, stop, right? So what they say, rukhsa wa istimara. They say, license registration. I'm like, excuse me, I don't know any Arabic. I knew Arabic, but I played it off. I was like, I don't know any Arabic. So I'd be like, excuse me, license registration? He's like, yeah. And I'd be like, okay, ana kallam Arabi shoya. In an American accent. And the guy would be like, he'd be like shocked. He'd be like, oh, okay, this guy really doesn't know. And then you see my license, and on the license in Saudi, they have your nationality written if you're non-Saudi, right? So he said, American. He said, American? No, he looked at me, right, in Arabic. He's like, oh, you don't look American, you look like Pakistani or Indian, which is true, right? So it was kind of ironic because he's like, American? I was like, yeah, He was like, okay, go. I was like, all right, go. So the funny thing is that if you are from the West or have a Western nationality, you get away with a lot of things. Okay, so that's just another story. Okay, how many of y'all are familiar with the concept of convertible hijabis? Anybody know what I'm talking about? Yes, no? Okay, so the first time I got introduced to this concept was flight SV034, which is the flight that goes from Jeddah to DC or New York. And it's funny though, because I grew up, mom covers and stuff like that. I grew up, hijab, and I was like, okay, if you don't cover, I have aunts and uncles that don't, sorry, I was saying uncles, my bad. I have aunts that don't cover, right? Okay, that's your business, you don't cover. But for me, it was weird. If you covered, you don't take it off, right? So it was funny, the first time I got introduced, I was young, so I'm flying, and we land, we're about to land in the States, right? And all these women in abayas and stuff like that, that I sit at the airport, they go inside the bathroom, whatever, change, and they come back, and I'm like, Mom, I don't recognize them. It was like, yeah, so so it was funny because that's when I was like, oh, okay, so these are the convertible types, and that's what I made it. So they take off the hijab when they want to, and they put it back on when they're supposed to, So that's another thing. Let me see, what else do I have? Okay, last story. Okay, so I was flying. I used to fly a lot. So I was flying. I was at New York Airport. This is after 9/11. Okay, so everybody's like panic mode and stuff like that. No, not random search, it's something else. Okay, so customs, I never, in my life, I'm telling you, I've been in and out of America over 50 times. And it's the first time that customs actually asked me to come aside. So I come to the side, and he's like, starts going through my stuff, and he starts, I have a notebook with poetry. And one of my poems, it starts, "Bullets made in the USA." I shared it at the school conference. So he opens it and he's like, "Oh snap, this guy has some terrorist ideologies." I'm like, no, this is my personal stuff. You're going through my stuff. He started going through a lot of my stuff. So he called the supervisor. He's like, this guy's got, some serious stuff written, I was like, go through my stuff, So the ironic part is that this is when I used to listen to lots of music. Alhamdulillah, I don't listen to music anymore. So I had like 300 CDs. 50s, Tupac, whatever, Biggie, whatever, stuff like that. So the guy, he starts going through my CDs. I was like, look, I'm just a writer. I listen to music and, I rap and stuff like that. He's like, yeah, you're right. It's okay, no problem, go. So it was like, he looked at my CDs and he was like, oh, okay, this guy is just, one of those hip-hop junkies. We'll let him go. So it kind of saved me. But that was it. So...